Hi, I'm Kristen. Welcome to my room where I sit on the floor and talk to my camera and hope that you care. Today, I'm going to be talking about my experience at VidCon as a small creator. You can see my subscribe count right now, as I'm recording this at least, is about 640. So I am a pretty small creator. I'm not 100% new to this, but I don't have any sort of notoriety. Due to this, I think I had a slightly different experience at VidCon than a lot of bigger creators, or even people who haven't really started yet would have. And I want to share that perspective so that people who consider themselves similar to me, or even who want to consider my ideas in reference to knowing their differences from me, will be able to decide whether it's even worth it to go to VidCon these days, especially if you're a little guy trying to make stuff on the internet. I'm going to get into a lot of different stuff in this video, so it's probably kind of long. Hopefully stick around if you really want to know all of my thoughts, but I'm going to put timestamps in the description for the 7 different areas that I'm going to touch on. So the 6 things about VidCon are I'm going to talk about cost, time, networking, the certification tracks they did this year, the creator chats, and the channel reviews. So that's the 6 basic things about VidCon I'm going to give you my thoughts on. And then after that, I'm going to tell you whether I would personally go back, whether I recommend you go to VidCon, and how I think I would do things differently if I were to go back. First, I'm going to talk about costs. VidCon's expensive. I'm sure you know this, but I thought it might be useful to just mention how much I actually literally paid. So I'm going to try and make this a quick run through. I spent $180 on my round ticket flight. I spent about the same amount, about $190 on my Airbnb. I spent about $130 getting around while I was actually in LA/Anaheim. So like lifts as well as bus passes, because I did take the bus a lot. My main lifts were like getting to and from the airport, and then I took one lift because it was very late at night that I was leaving VidCon, and the bus was going to take like 2 hours for me to get home, and the lifts were like $6 or $7 at that time, so that was the only excessive lift I took. Otherwise, I was on the bus. I spent about $175 on food. I was there Thursday through Sunday, so VidCon starts on Wednesday, but nothing really happens on Wednesday, at least for community and creator tracks. And then I did stay in LA through Sunday, even though technically everything ended on Saturday. That was mainly because the cheapest flight for me to get back was at 10 p.m. at night. So I ended up in LA for the whole day on Sunday. I spent about $110 on merch. Obviously, you don't have to spend money on merch, but it was my first VidCon, and there are a lot of creators there that I did want to support. I mostly bought pins. I'll insert a picture from my Instagram. I got a bunch of pins of people that I like to put on my VidCon lanyard to kind of show like, these are some of the people I'm into if you want to talk to me about it. That all together comes to about $150, rounding up a little bit maybe, that I spent on VidCon. This does not include the VidCon ticket because I was lucky enough that my friends actually bought the ticket for me as a birthday present, but if you throw in the ticket, it's easily $1,000, even if you're trying to really spend minimally. I would say the merch I could have gone easier on. I also could have spent less on food, but I know myself, when I put too much pressure on myself to spend as little as possible on food, I end up just not feeding myself very well. So I let myself spend what I needed to make sure that I was being fed enough. So given all of that, you have to consider, is the experience worth $1,000, which is a lot of money to me, maybe less money to some people, but I'm still in college. Going on to the second topic, time. And this is mainly talking about how long the convention is, how many sessions you can realistically go to, whether it feels like you have enough time to do everything you want to do. Now, the answer to that may be obvious, no, but I'm going to talk about the specific things that I struggled with in terms of figuring out how to spend my time at VidCon so that I would be getting the most out of it. First of all, I had a creator ticket, but creators can also go to the community track events, and I had a really hard time balancing wanting to learn about being a creator with being a fan and wanting to see some of my favorite YouTubers that weren't doing anything in the creator panels, workshops, etc. So I did actually miss a couple slots of sessions when I could have been learning in order to go see some of my favorite creators. I think I only ended up going to 2 community events, but it sort of felt like I was wasting that time by not learning anything. And I could easily see though how if I would have gone to only creator stuff, I might have felt like I missed out on seeing my favorite YouTubers. So that's like a difficult thing to deal with. Second, it is very hard when you are trying to decide what creator sessions to go to know which ones are really going to be valuable to you. There were about 2 to 5 sessions going on for the creator track specifically at any given time. And so you had to kind of be like, I cannot possibly go to all of these. Which one am I going to decide is worth my hour? And the descriptions honestly weren't that great at telling me whether it was going to be valuable for me, because the thing is, some sessions ended up going really deep on something that I didn't know much about, and I got a lot out of that. And other ones stayed kind of surface level when I wanted them to be going a lot deeper. And because they stayed more surface level, I didn't feel like I got as much out of it. And you just can't tell which one it's going to be just from the description, because the description is mostly just trying to explain what the topic is. Also, just for context, there were about 6 sessions in the day, so they were 1 hour time blocks of like sessions happening, and then there was a half hour in between each block, and they weren't staggered at all. It was like, during this hour all of the sessions are happening, during this half hour nothing is happening, and that makes it kind of easy to go in between sessions because you don't have to worry about ones you want overlapping in terms of like this one ends 15 minutes after this one started. But only those 6 slots, and then only over really 2.5 days, because on the last day the last 2 slots were not happening. They were taken over by the creator keynote. It really feels like it's hard to get a ton out of it, because you do end up going to sessions that aren't that informative for you. I do feel like I would have liked it better if there was less of a break in between sessions, maybe like shorter breaks in the morning and then like one longer like lunch break, and then shorter breaks again in the afternoon to get 1 or 2 more hour-long sessions in there. Especially if you're staying generally in the creator area, there was a ton of downtime. I wish there would have been more stuff happening ongoingly. Third, networking. This is a big thing people say they want to do when they go to this sort of convention, particularly to go as a creator. Personally, I hate the word networking. I hate the idea of networking, especially like the traditional networking. I appreciate meeting people and building relationships with people who are doing something similar to you so that you can support each other. That's great. I just feel like the way we think we should be doing that isn't always actually very good at doing that. So I went to one actual networking session because they had a couple rooms that were set aside for like themed networking sessions. So like everyone who does travel blogging, everyone who does educational content. I went to the one for small creators, which obviously was a lot of a hodgepodge, and I did not get a ton out of that. I am a pretty anxious person. The room was super crowded. I feel really weird initiating conversation with strangers, and I just like didn't get lucky in that the first few people I talked to were like really awkward exchanges, and neither of us really knew much about like the kind of stuff the other was doing. A lot of people were just like giving out their business cards, and I don't care enough to look you up if we don't actually have a conversation, and I didn't really love that seemed to be what a lot of people in the room were going for. I feel like it could be better if you did go to one of the sessions that was more around a topic, because then you could talk more about the thing that you make and why you care about that thing and so on and so forth. But networking session did not do much for me. I did also, however, network just by talking to people in that massive half-hour gap in between sessions. I was there alone. I would generally try to sit kind of near another apparent loner so that I could be like, hey, what do you make videos about? Do you have a channel? Oh, that's cool. And then sort of start a conversation that way. A lot of the time we would kind of talk about the topic of the talk that we decided to go to. So I talked with somebody like, oh yeah, I'm into filmmaking too. And I talked about like somebody who had gone to film school and so on and so forth. So I thought that was a lot more valuable. But it's still hard to take that one conversation and really carry that to make a relationship. So I feel like VidCon wasn't great for me in the networking sense. I feel there's like 2 or 3 people I talked to that I would really like to reach out to and like keep talking to, but I'm really bad at online relationships. So we'll have to see how that goes. Fourth, the VidCon certification thing that they started doing this year. For this, generally, there were specific sessions you could go to that were in a track that would give you some sort of like LinkedIn badge basically after the convention. There were 3 tracks you could do: audience development, career essentials, and production skills, I think. I ended up doing enough sessions to get a certification in the audience development track. I felt kind of pressured to pick just one track because of this. I feel like I might have gone to more diverse types of sessions if this didn't exist, mainly because of the whole time issue I talked about. I honestly would have loved to do all three. I kind of liked that it felt like targeted ability to really dive into a subject, but I really wish I would have been able to get more from every track, because I basically did like 5 sessions in the audience development track. I went to like two or three career essentials type sessions, and then I think I only went to 1 production skills session. I feel like I wish I could have learned more in those other areas that I didn't do the track for, but this is because of the time issue. And the other thing with this track is that the sessions weren't really designed to complement each other. They were just kind of like, oh, all of these are already about this topic, let's just call it a track. So a lot of it did get kind of repetitive. I think every session I went to on audience development, except for maybe one, talked about thumbnails and mentioned like 2 or 3 of the same things about thumbnails, just as an example. So I think it could have been better built to be more of a curriculum, in that it's like, if you do this track, you're going to get a lot of the skills, all of the different skills you need, and you're not just going to be going to sessions that say the same thing over and over so that you can get this LinkedIn badge. So I like the idea, but I feel like it definitely needs to be fine-tuned, but that makes sense because it's their first year doing it. 5th, the creator chat. I loved my creator chat. I feel like this one is very difficult to generalize though, because it depends so much on if you even got one, because it was a lottery. Second, who you got it with, because it was a lottery. And third, who else was in the room with you, because there was 10 people plus the creator in my chat, and I feel like it was a pretty good atmosphere with those 10 people. Everyone was very respectful of one another. Everyone was interested in the questions that each other was asking generally, I think. I had my creator chat with Charlie Sokulike, Charlie McDonald. I've been a fan of him for like, I don't know, a decade. So it was pretty amazing for me because I really appreciate having that conversation with someone that I looked up to, as opposed to just doing like a meet and greet. So I think this was like a great perk of the creator chat, of the creator track. I really love that this gave something that all of the presentations and workshops weren't giving, which was a little bit more of the ability to ask about the realities of doing this thing, and like, how do you deal with the bad things? How do you deal with like, if you suddenly get a bunch of attention, how do you cope with that? It gave us the ability to talk about thinking about making things and being successful in a different light, because it felt like a lot of the presenters, there was like one exception that I saw, were kind of going for this, you need to be getting views because that's how you get success, that's how you get money, that's how you get more opportunities, which is all good and true. But in my creator chat, at least, we talked about some of the other ways you can think about what you're making and make things that matter to you, regardless of whether they do get that attention, because it isn't totally in your control. Even if you have super clickable thumbnails and titles, sometimes the fact that you have no subscribers means that it just doesn't get seen. You can definitely do things to try and get seen, but there is a dose of luck involved, I think. And that might even be like the fact that you need money to have high production, and a lot of us don't have money. I'm filming in my room, so this looks not as good as somebody who has the money to have a nice set and not just film in front of a window for lighting. But so, creator chat was super useful. I loved it. I think it's great. Highly recommend you try to do one. Even if there isn't somebody on there that you're as excited about, it's just a great way to get perspective. Finally, 6, channel reviews. So this is a thing I didn't know was going to be a thing, but basically up on the floor, there was all the creator sessions. There were booths, so like sponsored booths that were like people who wanted to just contact, advertise, talk to creators. And 2 of those booths were vidIQ and TubeBuddy. And both of those are like Chrome extensions that are supposed to help you with SEO and running a channel and whatnot. And both of them were offering free channel reviews. So you would sit down with one of their experts for half an hour and they would look at your channel and use their tool to give you advice. And I thought these were super useful because it really helped me translate what I was hearing in these presentations to my channel specifically, kind of helped me build that bridge. So my one with vidIQ was a lot more just advice and not as strictly data focused. So the guy kind of looked at my titles and was saying, this is the sort of impression I'm getting. These are the titles that I think specifically aren't that great. And here's how you could think about rewording those to do better. And then also he gave me a lot of like brainstorm topics for like stuff I could be doing that's in the sort of niche. If you watch my channel, you know I'm not great at having a niche. That's in this sort of niche that might be more search optimized, it might be more clickable. I thought that was really great because it like inspired me and also helped me conceptualize where I'm going with my channel as opposed to just looking at like what's wrong with what is already on my channel. TubeBuddy had a massive like checklist basically, and it ran like a ton of data from my channel. And this gave me a few like really concrete things that I was doing like quote unquote a bit wrong that were like really easy to change. And he also talked with me a bit more about some of the nitty-gritty of search and keywords and how I could be trying to do that stuff better. But the vidIQ one touched my soul a lot more. So finally, I've been filming for 21 minutes. I'm talking so fast, but let's answer the question. Would I go again? I think yes, I would go again, but looking at me in my life and my future, there's a decent chance I'm moving to LA after graduation, and I think that is the only case where I go next year, because then I don't have to worry as much about transportation. I don't feel as out of my element. I could possibly even stay at home and just drive there each day as opposed to having to pay for accommodations. That feels a lot more worth it. I think if I move anywhere else after graduation, I'm not going to want to travel to LA for this. Moving on to the next point is that if I do go again, I'm going to do certain things different. So what would I do different? First of all, if I am paying for accommodations, I would get a hotel right by the convention center. I stayed at an Airbnb like 10-minute drive away, but like 30 to 40-minute bus away, and that was very cost effective, but it made it a bit harder to enjoy the whole VidCon experience, mainly because I was really stressed about getting back at night. So I ended up skipping out on almost all of the like after hours, nighttime concert programming stuff, which I think could have been fun, could have been a good way to maybe have more conversations with some of the people I started talking to start build those relationships a little bit more, or even just like see more creators without having to ditch the creator stuff to go to community stuff, you know? Second, I would prioritize Creator Shack if I go again. I'm very glad that I got to see some of my favorite YouTubers, but I think I would want to really juice those creator sessions to their fullest. Building on that, to get the most out of the creator sessions, I would do a lot more research on who is actually running the sessions, because I feel like that could have given me more insight onto which ones I was going to be getting the most out of, to like know the background of who's going to be on stage and to kind of know what perspectives they're bringing. I would also go to those vidIQ and TubeBuddy booths like first freaking thing, because they really booked out on those channel review sessions. So I signed up like Thursday afternoon and I got a Saturday afternoon session for both of them. Well, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. So that's like halfway through the first day, they were booked all the way until the beginning of the third day. So hot tip to check those out, because I didn't really know what was going on with those booths, so I didn't realize that that was a thing until like later in the first day. Relating to focusing on the creator track, I would probably spend little to no time down in the expo hall, unless I knew that there was something down there that was targeting creators. Like there was a new editing software that was doing like free workshops that might have been cool to check out. I kind of love the editing situation that I have, so I didn't. But if there's something very specific like that, might be worth checking out. Otherwise, don't really need to. Finally, if I do move to LA and I'm like getting a job in media, which would be dope, I would consider going all in on the industry track, because I think a lot of the ways that the creator sessions didn't feel that great, a lot of the ways that they were kind of service level to me, was because they were aimed at a slightly more beginner than I necessarily consider myself. And I think the industry sessions are a lot more compact, a lot more packed into the day, and they go a lot deeper on some things because they assume a certain amount of knowledge. I would consider going industry track just to really be learning a ton at this convention, which would be like truly diving all into the learning side of it as opposed to going also as a fan. I will say that the one thing I absolutely do not regret that I think I did 100% right is every morning for breakfast I went to a proper diner and I sat down and I ate a massive meal, which was great because usually throughout the day I would just kind of snack because there wasn't a ton of great ways to eat inside the convention center. Like, all of the proper meals were outside in food trucks. That breakfast like really helped me power up, be like, today's gonna be a great day. So I highly recommend that. That's also just in life in general though. So yeah, I would go to VidCon again, but like only if it wasn't going to be a financial burden and if I was going to be like 100% taking the shit seriously. I mean, you still want to have fun, but for that ticket price and that general price, I want to be learning a lot. Those are my thoughts. Thank you for watching. This is the end screen now. You should subscribe and you should watch this video and you should like follow me on social media. Okay, thanks, bye!